Things just took a major turn for the Chicago Bears entering week 4 against the Las Vegas Raiders on the injury front. What does that mean going forward? Welcome to Bears Digest, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Dylan Guinzy. Thank you for joining me once again. If you have not subscribed already, please do so. It looks like 67.5% of you have not done so, so hit that bell to stay up to date on news, rumors, information as it comes to us. So, we are to week 4. Las Vegas Raiders are on tap. Today we're going to discuss some of the injury report information and some unfortunate news on that front, as well as we are just getting eaten alive from the injury bug this year. So before we get started with that, I want to hear your game predictions down below. What you guys think the score will be and the overall outcome of the game. I always like hearing from you guys on that. My current prediction is Vegas wins 24-17. Just seems like one of those traditional letdown games in my opinion, and just something that we usually see as Bears fans. I know they're probably not a better team than we are or anything like that, but it's a week-to-week league and it's tough to win. So that's kind of where I have it right now, 24-17 Vegas. What do you guys think? Always am curious on that front. So today, getting into the video topic is the injury bug in the injury report that we have been discussing at length throughout this season. Man, we are beat up and it's been very difficult to get healthy. I think the bye is actually coming at a good time where we didn't think that that was probably the case before the year started with that early bye. You know, it's something that you usually don't want, but I think it is really coming at a good time for us here. But we're going to discuss some things, especially along the offensive line and some important details here going into this game and some unfortunate stuff there in terms of who may be playing in replacement of these guys. So, injury report from yesterday on Thursday. We're obviously going to have one here today on Friday with some more detailed information, but I would expect it to not change too much overall going into the game on Sunday. But TJ Edwards and Kyler Gordon still hanging out there with DNPs. Hopefully they are back after the bye this week. It is not looking good on that front, in my opinion. So we'll see what they are like after the bye week. Grady Jarrett still hanging out there. I think Grady's going to play. He's been that way the past couple of weeks. I think he's had some did not practices a couple of times throughout the week and then ended up pulling through and doing so there. He's a veteran, so usually they do get some rest days. And then if they are dealing with something, they can hold them out and things like that. Colston Loveland with the hip, 2 did not practices in a row. I hope he gets in a limited session here today. I think he'll be good to go, but honestly, they're probably not going to force it. I would love to see Colston play because he had that great catch last week to start the game, and then he went down with that hip injury. The next possession after that, he had 33 yards on that one catch, and he was targeted one more time as well, where he did get injured on. I do want him to start getting the ball more, getting more targets, because he is a mismatch waiting to happen, and we're going to see one of those good tight ends that is a mismatch as well on the other side in Brock Bowers on Sunday. Darnell Wright, this is the big one. He had that elbow injury rather early on in the game against the Cowboys last Sunday. It looked like it was really bad at the start, but they're saying it's not too bad. But he did go back into play the rest of that game against the Cowboys. However, as anybody that's played sports and been in that situation knows, that next day after is when you really, really feel it. And it seems like it is kind of just nagging at this point, and it's probably not looking great. Especially with that elbow, you need that. You need that for your power and your pressure points on the offensive line to be that stable offensive tackle there. So we'll keep an eye on that. But Darnell Wright is not looking good. We're going to talk about his replacement here shortly. And then Jaylon Jones, Swift, Cole Kmet, and DeMarco Jackson. Those guys should be more than fine to go on Sunday. So on to Darnell Wright's replacement. He's probably the one that's looking like he's not going to play the most. Other than Kyler Gordon and TJ Edwards. His replacement would be this man right here, Theo Bennett, the Canadian Eagle, as we call him. A lot of people, want to see Ozzy Trapillo or asking where Ozzy Trapillo is at. He's just not a guy that's ready to start at this moment, and that's just, what the staff has proven to us. When Darnell Wright went out with that elbow injury last week for a little bit, this is the guy that came in, and that was Theo Bennett. He did pretty well, obviously a smaller sample size, and the Cowboys don't have great edge rushers like Max Crosby. So if it is Darnell Wright who is out this game, it is going to be Theo Bennett primarily tasked with blocking Max Crosby. And that is a That's a big turn in this one. That could be a problem because we're going to have to add at least one more blocker over there, tight end chipping, and probably the back on that side as well. And that opens up a lot of other holes for the Las Vegas Raiders defensive line, even though they're not very good outside of Max Crosby, but other guys are going to eat when they're just getting one-on-ones all day. So this is a problem. It could really sway the game. I know a lot of people might not think that way, but when you got Theo or a guy like Theo coming in and rotating in, and a guy that's not a usual starter, and he's going against Max Crosby, with how good Max Crosby already is, he can wreck the game, and he can take over on third downs, and especially late in the game when you really need a conversion. This is the guy that's going to be coming right after you full speed, and I love Theo Benedict. I think he's going to be a good player, but this is a tall task and a tough matchup for him on Sunday. So we're going to see how that goes. Stay up to date on that. But I think that's the way it's looking right now, and it's a little bit unfortunate, but I hope that he shocks the world in that case and can hold his own there against Mad Max. The next one on to there is Colson Loveland. Like I said before, I hope he does play. Getting this guy the most reps possible is going to be beneficial for the Chicago Bears team going forward and into next year as well. When you do have to start making decisions on other guys, like Cole Kmet too. Obviously, his contract's not up, but he's, probably a guy that you're going to make a decision on at some point where you don't want to have all of these starting tight ends necessarily competing for reps with one another, especially when you draft a Colson Loveland in the first round. So I hope Colson can get back in and, keep developing that rapport with Caleb Williams. You can see, every week that there's kind of a different game plan and what they want to do on offense. And obviously that should be obvious, right? But I think in years past, with the Bears, we really didn't have that. They just tried to do their normal stuff that they did every week, and it didn't work. I feel like Ben really does attack those mismatches, and when they have those opportunities with tight ends playing, especially against the Raiders here, they're not very good at covering the tight end spot. When they have those advantages, Ben really, really likes to make that an emphasis in the game plan. And you saw that early and often. People were calling out, oh, why aren't you using the tight ends, early in the week last week? And he went out right away, and one of the first throws that Caleb made was right to Colson Loveland. So things like that Ben's really good at, and I really want to see Colson Loveland get more involved as we move forward. Grady Jarrett, again, we touched on him. I think he's going to play. He's just one of, just an old vet that you just need to give him more time during the week. He's a guy that prepares well. He knows what he's doing, so you don't want to run the risk of putting him out there during the week too much when you already know that he's going to go out there and do his job on Sunday, although he hasn't been that great this year so far, I would say. I don't think that's a hot take. You just really don't notice him too much. The announcers aren't calling his name all that much. He's not, really getting in the backfield too much. He did pressure Prescott on Sunday, but had that penalty for hitting him low. So that was unfortunate. But I want to see him, continuing to shine for that veteran leader on this defensive line there in Grady Jarrett. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have the injury report and injury bug hitting us at the wrong time. Maybe it is the right time with the bye week coming up, but you'd like to see us at least be somewhat healthy for this game on Sunday, as it is a must-win against the Vegas Raiders. Again, let me hear your score predictions down below. This is going to be a tough one regardless. The NFL is tough, man. You're not really going to get easy hand-me-down wins, so we'll see how they perform this Sunday. Let me know your predictions down below. As always, thank you for joining. We'll be back with a game recap Sunday evening, and we'll be discussing the game and everything that took place there. Hopefully it's all good things. And thank you for joining once again. Bear down.